What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for another one a little earlier than I thought we'd be, but here we are. Jeez Louise, guys, I have no inside information. I have nothing on this. I didn't even know this was coming, but oh boy. We are going to look over, guys, I got the full lawsuit right in front of me right here. We're going to look over all 58 pages of this lawsuit. We got some reactions to it we're going to look at. We got some questions. And the thing that is, I'm going to pose this question right away. Okay. Right now, I know everyone knows there is a part of this, and we'll get to it, about a prominent quarterback being on a yacht with Ross and Flores invited to that, but it was viewed as tampering. Well, I'll show you. It's already come out that that was not Deshaun Watson. So I want to ask all of you, am I crazy for thinking that in 2020, before the draft, the guy on the yacht was probably Tom Brady after he was leaving the New England Patriots? Am I crazy to think that was probably Tom Brady? That's the one that makes sense to me, is that it was Tom Brady, that it wasn't Deshaun Watson. Because go think about the prominent QBs that were on the market in 2020. There's no one else. Go back and look. Going into the 2020 season, go and look at the QB movement. There's no one prominent like Tom Brady in that offseason that moved. Literally. Tom Brady is the only one that makes sense when you actually sit there and dissect everything. Yeah, January 2020, right? Guys, that's what? That's 2 months, 2.5 months before the Tua selection. That tells you it was probably Tom Brady. And that's probably why Ross felt comfortable inviting Flores to the yacht, because of his relationship with Tom Brady. All right, so let's get into this because we got a ton to go over here. And I want to open it up to you guys. I want to get your thoughts, because the problem right now is the head coaching search. This looks bad on us. And number two, what not enough people are talking about, and I'll be the first to put it out there publicly, draft picks. If we get caught tampering with a quarterback, this is going to be draft picks. We could lose this year's draft pick and the two next year if this is literally investigated and we are caught tampering here. Our draft picks are at play now. Now our draft picks are at play. So, I mean, I don't know. But let's get into this. We got a lot to talk about right here. Guys, smash that like button. Already about 234 of you in the room. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. Let's get into this. Let's start feeding the information, man. Let's start going. So it started off at about 3:54. I wasn't even on Twitter. I was just chilling. 3:54. I mean, I was, getting my daughter up from her nap. And this is what Cameron Wolf said. I'm told Brian Flores and his team have filed the class action lawsuit against the NFL for violation of civil rights statutes and discrimination in regards to hiring and firing practices for coaches and executives. I'm told this is related to the Dolphins, Giants, and NFL as a whole. All right. So then moving on, Adam Schefter then, not too long after, he went ahead and he tweeted out the following. He said, former Miami head coach Brian Flores is suing the NFL, the Giants, the Dolphins, and Broncos, because the Broncos are included, you'll see why, for alleged racism in hiring. And he includes text from the Patriots head coach Bill Belichick in the suit as evidence. Lawsuit filed in Manhattan federal court seeking unspecified damages from the NFL. All right. Now let's Hey, I know this is about to be a little long, but let's hop right in to exactly what Brian Flores has filed. This is all 58 pages of his complaint. Let's go through them. You see here, Brian Flores as a class representative on behalf of himself and others similarly situated against the National Football League, the New York Football Giants, Miami Dolphins, Denver Broncos, and John Doe's team 1 through 29, basically meaning the rest of the NFL, right? And a jury trial is demanded. So the little highlights before we get into here. Sorry, I fucked this up. I double checked and misread the text. I think they're naming Brian Dabble. I'm sorry about that. Bill Belichick informing plaintiff Brian Flores 3 days before his interview with the New York Giants that Brian Dabble had already been selected for the job. Morals cannot be legislated, but behavior can be regulated. The law cannot make an employer love me, but it can keep him from refusing to hire me because of the color of my skin. Dr. Martin Luther King. All right. So right here, it goes into the preliminary statement. As this class action complaint is filed on the first day of Black History Month, we honor the brave leaders that fought so hard to help break down racial barriers of injustice. Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, Frederick Douglass, Jackie Robinson, and Mamie Till, to only name a few. Unfortunately, however, there is so much more to be done. While racial barriers have been eroded in many areas, defendant the National Football League lives in a time of the past. As described throughout this class action complaint, the NFL remains rife with racism, particularly when it comes to the hiring and retention of black head coaches, coordinators, and general manager. I mean, there should be black owners. I've been saying this for a minute. I think it's an absolute outrage that there are no African American, majority owners in the NFL, and not just one. Like, give me multiple here, because I'm going to tell you right now, like me or love me, hate what I say, don't or love what I say, don't matter. How do you think this is going to sit with the old boys club? All those old white men, how do you think this is about to sit with them? Those old white men are about to come for Flores. He might have blackballed himself for the league by doing this, and I have to applaud Brian Flores' courage. Whether, at the end of the day, he's risking his job. He's putting his job, on the line here. His place in the NFL on the line here. Now, we may not agree with everything that he says in here. We may have our opinions on everything. Some things are fabricated, but again, like Deshaun Watson, like the women in the Deshaun Watson trial, you have to take everything Flores is saying at face value until he's proven to be a liar. When Brian Flores is proven through the judicial process that he's a liar, then you can start ripping on Flores. Just like, let's be honest, the Giants, the Dolphins, the NFL, they're all innocent until proven guilty. Like, you know what I mean? That's so, on one side, you got the innocent proven to guilty. On the other side, you got to find the middle here. You got to start taking everything just at face value. Anyways, if he's wrong, he deserves to be blackballed. But if he's right in everything he's saying, they're going to blackball him anyways, which is as wrong as it gets. So literally, Flores has put himself in a position where he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. That's the reality of the situation. Over the years, the NFL and its 32 member organizations, the teams, have been given every chance to do the right thing. Rules have been implemented, promises made, but nothing has changed. In fact, the racial discrimination has only been made worse by the NFL's disingenuous commitment to social equity. Oh my God. As such, in the face of risks associated with combating racism and injustice, and in particular standing up to the organization as powerful as the NFL and its teams, Mr. Flores has determined that the only way to effectuate real change is through the courts, where the NFL's conduct can be judged by a jury of Mr. Flores' peers. A judgment That is long overdue. In certain critical ways, the NFL is racially segregated and is managed much like a plantation. Those are some strong ass words. It's 32 owners, none of whom are black, which I agree with, profit substantially from the labor of NFL players, 70% of whom are black. Well, he's making the plantation case. I got to tip my hat. When you put it in that writing, is he wrong? The owners watch the games from atop NFL stadiums in their luxury boxes while their majority black workforce put their bodies on the line every Sunday, taking vicious hits and suffering debilitating injuries to their bodies and their brains while the NFL and its owners reap billions of dollars. Many players desire to coach for their post-playing careers. Others desire to work their way into management level positions at one of the NFL's 32 teams. Unfortunately, for black individuals, that is easier said than done. Only one of the NFL's 32 teams employs a black coach. Only 4 of the NFL 32 teams employ a black offensive coordinator. Only 11 of the NFL's 32 teams employ a black defensive coordinator. Only 8 of the NFL's 32 teams employ a black special teams coordinator. Only 3 of the NFL's 32 teams employ a black quarterback coach. And only 6 of the NFL's 32 teams employ a black general manager. These numbers come from a pool of players that is approximately 70% black. This is not by chance. Rather, the statistics above and those described throughout this complaint are the result of race discrimination. The NFL has effectively conceded this point. Troy Vincent, the NFL Executive Vice President of Football Operations, recently stated with regard to black head coaches, there is a double standard, and we've seen that. And you talk about the appetite for what's acceptable. Let's just go back to Coach Dungy, who was let go in Tampa Bay after a winning season. Coach Caldwell was fired after a winning season in Detroit. I mean, I know Caldwell reeks of 110% racism. I've said that multiple times on this channel. It is part of the larger challenges that we have. But when you just look over time, it's over-indexing for men of color. By the way, the ironic thing about him mentioning Coach Caldwell is Flores is who drove Caldwell out of Miami. Anyways, how do you explain that? There's a double standard. I don't think that is something we should shy away from, because it is all part of the things that we need to fix in the system. We want to hold everyone to, why does one, let's say, get the benefit of the doubt to be able to build or take bumps and bruises in the process of getting a franchise turned around when others are not afforded the latitude? We've seen that in the history at professional level. And I agree with that. The only problem is, let's call a spade a spade. Right now, an African-American general manager for the Miami Dolphins, I mean, he was in on the Gase hire. He was in on the Flores hire. He's technically getting a third or second chance, however you want to count, that a lot of white GMs don't even get, let alone African-American GMs don't get that second or third chance. Greer's getting it. I don't know. Similarly, Jonathan Bean, the NFL Senior Vice President and Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, stated, any criticism we get for lack of representation at the GM and head coach positions we deserve. We see that we are not where we want to be. We have to do much better. We're focusing on all roles of the league, and all of these roles are key roles, but certainly at the top of the house, general manager and head coach, that's responsibility of the NFL to make sure we're representing our current fan base and representing those that are in the league today. Notice how they didn't mention owners. Man, we need black owners. We need African-American owners. We need guys like LeBron, when they're done playing, pool their money, be a majority investor, have a couple minority partners, and, buy a team, LeBron. We need African-American owners to get infused into this. Like the Jerry Jones, all these decrepit 80, 90-year-old white guys, you need to go. Like, look at Snyder. The NFL, this is where you can start pointing to the NFL and how shady they are, right? All the things that Gruden got found out for and got fired for and got basically blackballed from the league for is what they were looking into Dan Snyder about. And we all know it exists there by Dan Snyder, but the NFL made John Gruden the fall guy instead, when really both should have been gone. As soon as they discovered that about John Gruden, He should be gone. And they should have kept pressing on Dan Snyder, but they clearly used John Gruden as a fall guy to protect one of their white coaches. Like, that's clearly obvious. So, perhaps worst of all, in connection with its distribution of settlement monies to retirees who suffer from traumatic brain injury, the NFL insisted on applying so-called race norms. Put simply, the NFL took the position that white people simply have better baseline cognitive function than black people. Remember, this is what they believed in the NFL back in the day, right? This is the very definition of racism, the assumption that someone is not as smart as another person because of the color of his or her skin. It also perhaps explains why the NFL and its teams are so loath to hire black head coaches, coordinators, and general managers, just as for years the league discriminated against black quarterbacks, which is true. They did discriminate against black quarterbacks. These are literal admissions of liability and the fault of the part of the NFL and to owners, and yet no meaningful remedial action has been taken to remedy this recognized discrimination. Even when black candidates get hired for head coaching positions, a rarity, they are discriminated against in connection with the terms and conditions of their employment and compensation, and terminated even as far less successful white coaches are retained. Moreover, black head coaches are far less likely than white head coaches to receive second chances, even as the white head coaches are routinely hired by teams even after they fail elsewhere. Well, I mean, Chris Greer, I already made the point about Chris Greer, so it doesn't happen as often, for African Americans. I do agree with that. But I also do agree, white, yellow, black, purple, blue, green, whatever, not a lot of people get the shot that Chris Greer is getting right now. Okay. Doesn't matter. That ain't about the color of your skin. That's coming down to, he's made the right friends in the building. It has been nearly 20 years since the NFL implemented the Rooney Rule to try and combat the utter lack of black head coaches in the NFL. At first implemented, the Rooney Rule required NFL teams to interview at least one black person in connection with any head coach vacancy. The Rooney Rule has since been expanded to cover general manager and other front office positions, as well as assistant head coach and other coordinator positions. Moreover, as it relates to head coach positions, teams are now required to interview 2 minority coaching candidates, at least one of whom be interviewed in person. The Rooney Rule may have been well-intentioned, although it is hard to attribute benevolence to the NFL given the complete lack of action that it has taken post-Rooney Rule to remedy discrimination that it admits exists. However, well-intentioned or not, what is clear to the Rooney Rule is it not working. It is not working because the number of black head coaches, coordinators, and quarterback coaches are not even close to being reflective of the number of black athletes on the field. The Rooney Rule is also not working because management is not doing the interviews in good faith, and therefore creates a stigma that interviews of black candidates are only being done to comply with the Rooney Rule rather than in recognition of the talents that black candidates possess. Sorry, let me go right here. I think I skipped down for a sec here. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So in January 2022, Mr. Flores, who spent 3 years as the head coach of the defendant Miami Dolphins, found himself without a job. He was fired by the Dolphins after leading the team to its first back-to-back winning seasons since 2003. The purported basis for his termination was alleged poor collaboration. In reality, the writing had been on the wall since Mr. Flores' first season as head coach of the Dolphins, when he refused his owner's directive to tank for the first pick in the draft. And this is where we start seeing people get named here. Right? So here we go. Indeed, during the 2019 season, Miami's owner, Stephen Ross. Oh man. What an embarrassment to be a Dolphins fan it is. It's one thing after another with this team. It's absolutely disgusting. Like, I'm just so fed up. If it's just one thing after another, man. Like, talk about a toxic team to be a fan of. Jesus. So anyways, indeed, during the 2019 season, Miami's owner Stephen Ross told Mr. Flores that he would pay him $100,000 for every loss. And the team's general manager, Chris Greer, told Mr. Flores that Steve was mad that Mr. Flores' success in winning games that year was compromising the team's draft position. After the end of 2019 season, Mr. Ross began to pressure Mr. Flores to recruit a prominent quarterback in violation of the league tampering rules. Mr. Flores repeatedly refused to comply with these improper directives. Undeterred, in the winter of 2020, all right? So in the winter of 2020, Mr. Ross invited Mr. Flores onto a yacht for lunch. Shortly after he arrived, Mr. Ross told Mr. Flores that the prominent quarterback was conveniently arriving at the marina. Obviously, Mr. Ross had attempted to set up a purportedly impromptu meeting between Mr. Flores and the prominent quarterback, which that quarterback, if this goes to trial, is going to get named. They're going to ask for names. Mr. Flores refused the meeting and left the yacht immediately. After the incident, Mr. Flores was treated with disdain and held out as someone who was non-compliant and difficult to work with. From that point forward, Mr. Flores was ostracized and ultimately he was fired. He was subsequently defamed throughout the media and the league as he was labeled by the Dolphins brass as someone who was difficult to work with, which I had already been hearing before the firing. This is reflective of an all too familiar angry black man stigma that is often casted upon black men who are strong in their morals and convictions, while white men are coined as passionate for those very same attributes. Thus, last week, defendant New York Football Giants had an opportunity to move a step in the right direction, even if only one. The Giants had the chance to hire Mr. Flores, and an eminently qualified black man, to the first black head coach in the Giants in nearly a 100-year history. Instead, the Giants made the decision to hire Brian Dable and disclosed that decision to third parties during a time when the Giants were scheduled to still interview Mr. Flores, and when Mr. Flores was deceptively led to believe he actually had a chance at this job. Thus, on Wednesday, January 26, 2022, Mr. Flores was forced to sit through a dinner with Joe Schoen, the Giants' new general manager, knowing that the Giants had already selected Mr. Dable. Much worse, on Thursday, January 27, 2022, Mr. Flores had to give an extensive interview for a job that he had already known he would not get. An interview that was held for no reason other than for the Giants to demonstrate falsely to the league commissioner, Roger Goodell, and the public at large that it was in compliance with the Rooney Rule. The Giants would likely have gotten away with this most insidious form of discrimination if New York Patriots coach Bill Belichick had not mistakenly disclosed it to Mr. Flores in the below text messages. And ladies and gentlemen, here are your text messages. And let's zoom in so you guys can see it. They have been included here. So basically, the gray is Bill Belichick. The blue is Brian Flores. So Bill texted him at 2:30, said, "Sounds like you have landed. Congrats." And Bill said, "Did you hear something I didn't hear?" And Bill Belichick responded, "Giants." And Flores replied, "I interview on Thursday. I think I have a shot at it." And then Bill responded, "Got it. I hear from Buffalo and New York Giants. You are their guy. I hope it works out if you wanted to." And he said, "That's definitely what I want. Hope you're right, coach. Thank you, coach. Are you talking to Brian Flores or Brian Dable? Just making sure." And then his response was the following: "Sorry, I fucked this up. I double checked and I misread the text. I think they are naming Dable. I'm sorry about that, Bill Belichick." And then he responded with, "Thanks, Bill." So now we've got straight up text messages that inside the Patriots, they knew they were going with Dable well before they even interviewed Flores for a second time. Guys, I've been missing donations. If you've made them, I apologize. Mike, who I'm going to open it up to you guys once I get through this, by the way. Reason, what in the F is going on, and does he have the right? We pulled the trigger on it, and he does this right before we pull the trigger on a new head coach. Unreal, this guy. Man, if he's telling the truth, man, I mean, what are you going to say whenever he pulled this? You know what I mean? So, all right. Incredibly, this was not Mr. Flores' first sham interview. This is a real good. Check what he says about John Elway here, people. Incredibly, this is not Mr. Flores' first sham interview that was held only in an effort to comply with the Rooney Rule. Indeed, in 2019, Mr. Flores was scheduled to interview with the Denver Broncos. However, the Broncos' then general manager, John Elway, president and chief executive officer, Joe Ellis, and others showed up an hour late to the interview. They looked completely disheveled, and it was obviously they had been drinking heavily the night before. It was clear from the substance of the interview that Mr. Flores was interviewed only because of the Rooney Rule, and that the Broncos never had any intention to consider him as a legit candidate for the job. Shortly thereafter, Vic Fangio, a white man, was hired to be the head coach of the Broncos. So, I mean, he's saying the Denver Broncos brats showed up to his interview hungover, and this man is now, whoo! Oh man, this man is now going at John Elway and the Broncos too. Holy! Oh my God! Having discovered what the Giants and the rest of the NFL had hoped to keep in the dark, Mr. Flores now brings this class action complaint to shine a light on the racial injustices that take place inside the NFL and to effectuate real change for the future. Among the other relief sought, Mr. Flores seeks the following injunctive reliefs: increase the influence of black individuals in hiring and termination decisions of general manager, head coach, and offensive and defensive coordinator positions. Ensure diversity of ownership by creating and funding a committee dedicated to sourcing black investors to take majority ownership stakes in NFL teams. B, ensure diversity of decision making by permitting select black players and coaches to participate in the interviewing process for general manager, head coach, and offensive and defensive coordinator positions. Now, I agree with the coaches. Bro, I don't care if you're black, white, purple, green, purple, orange, a rainbow colored. I don't care. I don't want players sitting here unless you are a franchise quarterback. And again, I don't care what the color of your skin is because you're a franchise quarterback. So you could be Deshaun Watson, Tua Tagovailoa, Aaron Rodgers. I don't care. And I'm not even calling Tua Tagovailoa a franchise quarterback. I'm just using the color of his skin because he's not technically a black man, okay? I don't care what the color of your skin is. If you are our franchise quarterback, if you have that cachet, I got no problem with you sitting in. But bro, I don't care if you're white, purple, yellow, Asian, whatever. I don't want a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman sitting in on an interview for a coordinator or a general manager or a head coach. Increase the objectivity of hiring and termination decisions for general manager, head coach, and offensive and defensive coordinator positions. Require NFL teams to reduce to writing the rationale for hiring and termination decisions, including a full explanation of the basis for any subjective influences, e.g., trust, personality, interview performances, etc. Require NFL teams to consider side-by-side comparisons of objective criteria such as past performance, experience, and objective qualifications. Increase the number of black offensive and defensive coordinators. Create and fund a training program for lower-level black coaches who demonstrate an aptitude for coaching and an interest in advancing to a coordinator position. So I do agree that, especially owners, I agree with owners, GMs, and head coaches and coordinators. There clearly is a disparity at play here, especially owners. How do we not even have one? You know, that's why when Jay-Z was coming out saying he was about to do this, I didn't believe him for 1 second. I know Jay-Z is all about the money. I mean, I would have believed Jay-Z if I would have saw him pumping money into historical black colleges and such like that. You know what I mean? So, um, and then you go look at he's saying incentivize the hiring and retention of black general managers, head coaches, offensive and defensive coordinators through monetary draft and other compensation such as additional salary cap space. They're not going to do that. Complete transparency with respect to pay for all general managers, head coaches, and offensive and defensive coordinators. So, I mean, and there you go. Now we're going to get into like what he's filing, et cetera, et cetera. Um, the first 8 pages were really, a lot of his claims were in the first 8 pages. This is absolutely like crazy right now. Unbelievable. I mean, geez. I'm not gonna go over the rest of it because now it's talking about like the venue where the jurisdiction is. Now it's talking about the parties, right? And it's talking about like, where everyone is located and such like that. So, um, you know, a lot of strong claims that at the end of the day, Brian Flores is gonna have to back up. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if that $100,000 claim is not in writing and there's no evidence, whether he's telling the truth or not, he's going to have a hard time letting that stick. The prominent quarterback, they're going to ask for a name. All right. That quarterback gets named. Do you really think he's going to side with Flores right now? He's in the NFL. He's probably, I'm guessing he's employed, unless it's Brady, he's employed by the NFL. He's not going to want to step on toes, right or wrong. Now, if it's a strong African American man like Deshaun Watson, then he may very well back Flores, and he should. If that story is true, whoever the quarterback is, don't play nice with the owners just because you're in the NFL. If Flores is telling the truth, back him up. Nut up. Put your balls on the table. All right? We need to get to the bottom of this and find out what's true and what's not. Because there's a lot of stuff in this. All right, and then after that statement came out, and I'm going to open it up to you guys in a sec here. After that statement came out, guys, Mike Girardi on Twitter said, this was a statement from Brian Flores. God has gifted me with a special talent to coach the game of football, but the need for change is bigger than my personal goals. In making the decision to file the class action complaint, I understand that I may be risking coaching the game I love. Josh says it was Jacoby Brissett. Good God. So, Brian Flores realizes the risk he's entailed, right? Now Cameron Wolf, he got a text message from Brian Flores, and this is what Cameron Wolf said in regard to it. He said, message I got from Brian Flores and his team about the lawsuit. It was time to stop being quiet about the injustices that are happening. This was long overdue. There's plenty of racism that needs to be exposed. I mean, good God. Right? Like he's letting y'all know what the deal is. And then Joe Shad, we got 666 in the room. Smash that like button. Joe Shad, this is what he said. Allegations in lawsuit accused Dolphin owner Stephen Ross of setting up Brian Flores to tamper with a QB. I am told that QB was not Deshaun Watson. Because remember, winter of 2022, Tom Brady was not a free agent until the new year started in March, right? Tom Brady was not a free agent yet. Now, he was a pending free agent, but he was not technically a free agent yet. He was not a free agent until March. March is when he became a free agent. And then, I mean, unreal. Unreal. And then now we got the Dolphins. I believe the Dolphins have dropped their statement, and I'm going to bring it up for you guys right here. This is what the Dolphins had to say in regards to all this stuff. I mean, this is let me bring it up here. This is just crazy. I'm like, it's one thing after another. Like, literally, if it is not like if it's not one thing, it's another with this team. Like, this team is literally the headache that never stops. It really is. I really don't know what else to say. So I'm just following the Dolphin statement here. Just okay. And then here is a statement from the Dolphins regarding everything. If you guys want to see what the Dolphins are saying, here's what the Dolphins are saying. So here's a statement from the Dolphins. I'm guessing this is going to be made public. Statement from the Dolphins denying allegations of racial discrimination from Brian Flores' lawsuit. There will be lawyers. Statement from the Dolphins. We are aware of the lawsuit through the media reports that came out this afternoon. We vehemently deny any allegations of racial discrimination and are proud of the diversity and inclusion throughout our organization. The implication that we acted in a manner inconsistent with the integrity of the game is incorrect. We will be withholding further comment on the lawsuit at this time. So that is, yeah, it was a bad mistake, Chris, by Bill Belichick. He's the one who blew this open, right? So, and I know what I get asked about here, like, how does this impact our coaching search right now? Well, first of all, our coaching search should probably be, at the bottom of the list right now, as crazy as that sounds, with what's going on. But guys, we were fed a false report yesterday by Jordan Schultz. Jordan Schultz is backtracking, and he's claiming that Mike McDaniel report he had was about his first interview, because Cameron Wolfe came out and said that the Dolphins have not had second interviews with their finalists yet. Chris Grier traveled to Mobile, Alabama for Senior Bowl yesterday, and he's out scouting prospects today. I'm told their second interview with the top remaining candidates, Mike McDaniel, with the top remaining candidate, Mike McDaniel, is set for later this week. And I've actually heard Thursday is the day that I've heard Mike McDaniel is having his interview, the day after National Signing Day. But here's the thing. If Jim Harbaugh was in play, how does this look right now? How does this look right now? How does this look right now? This does not look good. And now, guys, if this is all true and the tampering is confirmed and the 100K, boom! Nailed it! Nailed it! Nailed it! Nailed it! Holla at your boy! Holla at your boy! Joe Shad, Tom Brady was the quarterback Stephen Ross allegedly wanted Flores to meet in an alleged yacht meeting before Brady was a free agent, according to a league source. Boom! Nailed it. Nailed it, baby. Let's go. So there you go. Now we're getting a name. That happened. So the tampering is for real right now. The tampering is for real right now. I mean, good God almighty. It is now we got confirmation on the tampering. Now we have legit confirmation on the tampering. It was Tom Brady. Tom Brady was, it's tampering. People are saying it's tampering how? He was not a free agent yet. You do not become a free agent until March. What are you guys not understanding? The new league year starts in March. It does not start when the Patriots get knocked out. I don't know how this isn't being understood right now. You are not a free agent until March. And now you can lose a draft pick over this. I called this shit. I told you. I even put it on Twitter. I started off this show. I said, dude, I bet you it's Tom Brady. This is unbelievable. Tom Brady retired too. He don't give a damn. Charles Robinson. Let's bring this up for you guys. All right, I got a couple things here, extra things going on right now. So let's go on. First of all, the NFL has released a statement, and this is what the NFL has said in regard to the whole thing. And I'm going to and Charles Robinson has a very interesting tweet that I'm going to bring up for you guys too. This is, and I'm going to open it up for you guys. This is way too much for you, for me, for you, for all of us. Good God Almighty! So here's the NFL statement on it. Here is the NFL statement. So the NFL statement is this. This is what the NFL have to say about the whole thing. The NFL and our clubs are deeply committed to ensuring equitable employment practices and continue to make progress in providing equitable opportunities throughout our organizations. Diversity is core to everything we do, and there are a few issues on which our clubs and our internal leadership team spend more time. We will defend against these claims, which are without merit. So the NFL is already digging in against Brian Flores. They are digging in against Brian Flores right now. That's what that's telling you. That's what that is telling you. Like, unreal. Unreal right now. And guys, remember, do you remember Tom Brady when he did that interview and he said when he was talking about do you guys remember when he was on that podcast and he said they said they didn't want me? Do you remember all that jazz? And I know what that means. And he said, you're sticking with that guy? You're sticking with that motherfucker? He was talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick. He was talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick. Brady was literally talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick when he said, you're sticking with that guy? Wow. Unbelievable. And then, guys, I got to show you this. Charles Robinson, I mean, it's going to get worse here. You know, it's because sides are going to be chosen by coaches, coordinators, players, etc. Owner, well, not owners because they're all the old white men. So we already know what they're going to be choosing. Charles Robinson said this Brian Flores lawsuit against the NFL is going to resonate throughout sports and be a significant moment in the history of the league. I've spoken to 2 other coaches who believe they have the receipts to be a part of this class. This could be a tsunami before it's all over. Guys, this is about to get a lot uglier before it gets pretty. And it's so embarrassing that we are at the center of this. And then you got to ask yourself, if they prove he was offering him $100,000 to throw each game, but they didn't because they won 5, are they still going to try and punish him? So it's just, it's oh my God. I'm at a loss for words. I'm going to open it up to you guys. I am at a literal loss of words. This is just embarrassing to be a Dolphin fan. That we're even a part of this. All right, 737 of you in the room. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. I have dropped the link for you guys to come on up here. Again, with the Deshaun Watson, you have to take what Brian Flores is saying at face value until he's proven through the judicial process he's not telling the truth. Just like, at least take the Brady thing out. You're gonna have to point at the NFL, and until they're proven guilty in a court of law, what are you gonna say? What are you gonna say? Unreal. Absolutely unreal. Rhino. Logan, what's going on?
What's up, man?
Powerhouse.
What's up?
Sean.
What's happening?
What's going on? Todd.
How are you, pal?
What's going on, buddy? RJ. Crypto.
What's going on?
And what was this? King Z?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on? I want to say something to Dylan because he pounded this train earlier about to get rid of Ross. Maybe it's time for him to sell a team, Dylan. I'm on board with you, man.
All right.
The problem is
I'm with you.
Plan.
Yeah, I mean,
he need to implement it right away.
I mean,
yeah, just implement the succession plan.
Yeah,
the
but
succession
you
plan
realize
is not going to be any better.
The succession plan is the CEO of his company right now. You know that, right?
It's not not going to be any better.
You're literally getting the same thing.
It is still true that Ross is a clown and that this is what he does, but I mean, there really is not much of a good answer for that. I just want to say a couple quick things, rattle a couple things off because there is.
I'll give you one quick thing because I got other people I want to get to here. So you got one quick thing, rifle it off because I do got other people I just brought up. Go.
What? Okay. I mean,
I don't have time for a 15-20 minute soliloquy.
Yeah. I just wanted to. Yeah. Look. I mean, it's a clown show, bro. I mean, it's a mess. I'm not sure Brian Flores has a lot to stand on. I didn't see a ton of evidence there for actual racist claims. He was just a head coach for 3 years. He's still technically in the running for a couple jobs, but I mean, what are you going to do? The NFL, does have racism in it. I mean, that is for sure. So,
Rhino, I want to get your thoughts on this, bro.
Yeah. I'm just sick as a Dolphins fan. It just seems like it's going to be another Bullygate situation. But as far as what the Dolphins are being implicated on, it seems not about racism, but has to be about tampering, from what I can tell.
Yeah,
and they're gonna have to prove that.
The Giants and Denver have more problems in that area than we do right now. Yeah,
but even in their reason, there's a reasonable case to simply say that they had a preference and they brought him in to have a blow my shoes off type of interview, and he didn't. And the thing about Denver and Elway being drunk, not surprised.
Yeah, I know, eh?
But
But
there
it's
is
not evidence either.
Like
Yeah.
the Denver one feels more like they
Oof.
just did it to get it out of the way. The New York Giants one, I've heard that the owner wanted Flores and liked Flores, and it was the GM that wanted Dable, and the owner just conceded to what Dable and what the owner wanted the head coach.
GM on it.
But
The
but
GM
for
wanted,
me,
sorry.
but for me, Flores is not a good vehicle for the argument he's making
No.
because he was hired
Kenny
by a
Stills.
minority.
Look what he did to Kenny Stills,
Right.
right?
But he
Yeah.
was also hired by a minority owner. He was hired by a minority GM. He was fired for cause, on their opinion, and I'm sure they have proof of it. So he doesn't seem to be a good vehicle. He may have an extraordinary point to
I
make,
agree.
and maybe the other people will come in that have had really been treated poorly because of their color. This may turn into stuff, but Flores to me is not the best vehicle. But it's for us. For a Dolphin fan, I feel sick.
Yeah.
We're going to be brought into this, and it's another bullygate in my view, and this may affect our hiring of the next head coach. And I think that's why Flores did it. The timing of it. He could have waited a
Agreed.
month. He could have waited 2 months. Could have. He did it. He did it to ruin Harbaugh on Miami.
He just had dinner with the Saints last night. Like, unless he
Yeah.
knows he's not
Yeah.
getting that job, I mean,
He's a finalist.
I
for the
would have
Texans
at
job.
least
There's a fun for the
waited.
Houston Texans
I
gave
would
him
have
a
at least
second interview
waited
today.
it out.
It's rough,
Guys,
bro.
We're
It's
not
rough.
doing this talking over me shit. I'm stopping it right now. All right? Stopping it right now. Todd, I want to hear your thoughts on this, man. Go ahead.
I'm going to shock everybody as far as where the Dolphins are in this. I think it's a nothing burger. I don't really think there's anything that sticks to us in this scenario. I mean, Brian Flores got fired from the Dolphins. All of the allegations of racism and hiring practices have nothing to do with us. I mean, outside the fact that he was once our coach. I mean, that's implicating the Giants. It's implicating Bill Belichick that he even knew. You know what I mean? Where the communication that he knew who the Giants were hiring before Flores even had an interview. I mean, I could understand all of that, but as far as Miami, I mean, the $100,000 per loss allegation, Flores will not be able to prove, and it's. I mean, you could call Ross a buffoon all you want. There's nowhere that is documented. I mean, I guarantee you, it's not like Ross texts Brian Flores, "Hey, Brian, I got 100,000 for you when you lose." I mean, that's just not going to be.
There only is if there were actual financial transactions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, which there will not be. They're absolutely.
You don't know that.
And you think he put $100,000 for losing? Thanks, Flo. I don't think he would do
Yeah.
that.
He
It's
could
bad.
he could
It's-
prove that by showing
Nobody
bank
thought-
records.
Bros,
Yeah.
was Todd done making his point?
Yeah,
Sorry.
there will be
Sorry, Tom, sorry.
there will be no proof that there was $100,000 per loss, especially because Flo didn't lose at the end. You know, that's the whole point. Flo didn't lose at the end. You know what I mean? So this would have come once the winning started. So there wouldn't even be losing that he was being compensated for because he won at the end of the season. You know, but besides that, and as far as the quarterback thing, I mean, again, the meeting never took place, according to what Flo is alleging. So therefore, there is no tampering. He would have actually had to go through with it and have the conversation with Tom Brady about trying to lure Tom Brady to the Dolphins. If the meeting never took place, it is what he's alleging is Ross was willing to tamper, which looks about as bad as the story that Ross was willing to talk to Deshaun Watson. But the bottom line is, one, no tampering took place if Flo's saying he left, and two, there was way more tampering with Deshaun Watson than there was with Tom Brady. And the NFL's never going to come after us for this and penalize us, because in order to do that, they have to give validity to Brian Flores' claims, which is an indictment on them as a league way more than the Dolphins.
Yeah.
So the minute that they're giving any validity to what Brian Flores is saying and punish us, they're opening themselves up to a huge thing.
Okay, Pyro and then Crypto. Pyro, and I'm going to ask you guys straight up, as members of the African American community and also NFL fans, I want to hear your guys open Pandora's box. We'll start with you, Pyro. Give me your full thoughts on this, and then Crypto. I want to hear your thoughts on the whole thing too. So, Pyro, go ahead. Because sorry, Powerhouse. My bad. Oh my
Yeah,
God. I thought it was Pyro. Crypto. I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, that can't be no, argument against that. There's some level of racism in the hiring practices throughout the NFL based on the ratios of who's in there. Yeah, the Dolphins have hired a minority coach and GM, but in proportionate to the rest of the league, the Dolphins are the only franchise that was willing to go down that, I'll give the African American community a chance at, these positions, but those practices haven't been prevalent throughout the league from that standpoint. But as far as this whole thing about we can't prove, what was that? Hold on. We can't prove that one way or another on the tampering incident. We can't say definitely he didn't tamper or did tamper. Whether or not, they're going to do some fact finding, just like we like to say about this Deshaun Watson cases and all that we give it credence, one side or another. It's same thing here, everything has to play out. We can't definitely say he didn't tamper or he did tamper based on what's out there. But the Dolphins done got themselves once again in the pickle, and we can lose draft picks, or they could punish us for it if ever they find it, whether it implicates the NFL or not. They're going to need somebody to be the fall guy. The NFL not going to want themselves to be the fall guy. They can easily make the Dolphins the fall guy before they make the NFL the fall guy. They'll make themselves look bad. So it doesn't even matter how bad they make the NFL look. If they're going to punish the Dolphins, they're going to do it. And, it's just the whole thing about, if you're going to do what you do as far as putting information out there against someone, you got to have your ducks in a row if you're going to do that.
I'm making room right now for Z-Man to get up here. Logan, you read the 58 page, like literally as I was setting everything up, you're like, I'm unemployed. I had nothing else to do. I read the 58 pages. What did you think?
There's so much to unpack, man. Like it's so unfortunate. Like when Ross is our owner, all these terrible things happen. So I got a kind of different opinion on them now, but I do agree with like Todd and Crypto where they're saying like it could go either way. Like if we get punished for draft picks, because they both make a pretty compelling argument. Like, yeah, are we the fall guy in this or are we not? And yeah, it's crazy what's going on right now. And it's just really sad as a Dolphin fan. I couldn't believe what I was reading, like some of these claims. And then, yeah, how do you prove the 100K thing? Like, obviously, hopefully there isn't any transactions out there. But if there are, like Ross needs to go immediately. And we need to figure something out. But I'm sure there's a little bit of truth to both sides of this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like there has been racial discrimination. But Flores being the driver, I don't know, like the way he's treated X, the way he's treated, Kenny Stills, the way he's treated Tua, like those receipts are out there. So like, and those aren't white players. So it's hard to know without being in the building, right? And
yeah.
And can I say something?
We got to let this process go through.
Yeah. Okay. So hold on, Pyros. Before you go, this is what we're gonna do.
All right.
Z-Man and Pyro, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the situation. Then King Truth, I want to get your thoughts. Pyros, you can make your point, and then it's gonna be Dylan because he said he had other points he wanted to make. So I want to give Dylan the opportunity to make all those other points he wanted to make. So let's start with Pyro because I called you up. I want to hear, and Z-Man, same question to you after him. As an African American, how do you view this whole situation? What's your takeaway from this? Because we all know There's not enough African American owners in the NFL. I mean, when you saw the percentages of head coach and coordinators, I mean, you can't fight the numbers and such. And we get all that. We no one's disputing any of that. But when you look at when he started diving in and claiming, he's starting to try and label teams, as, let's be honest, circumventing the Rooney Rule and such. What are your thoughts on this, Pyro and Z-Man? Pyro, go first.
Well, I pretty much am just it's really deflating, man, when this came out, and we sort of knew this from the jump that it's always been hard for minority coaches to get hired, and that's not a secret or anything, but for Flores, and I have to agree with what Logan said. You're looking out for minorities and the brothers and stuff, but you also go against players like X and Steals. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not part of the problem, but you're not the solution. Is what I'm trying to say right now. You know what I'm saying? It's just like I get your heart is in the right place, but man, what you did to Kenny Stills and X, that's not we can't overlook that, man. That's not possible right now.
Yeah. Z-Man, your thoughts, my friend.
I feel the same way about this stuff, man. I can't defend stupidity. I'm sorry. No one told you to go out there and start 17 weeks of Jesse Davis. And I was on a space. Well, I'm still hosting the space right now, but the one, I guess, a team doctor from the team told us for 17 straight weeks Jesse Davis was hurt, and he continued to put him out there. Like, I get it, but at the same time, listen, bro, I can't defend all the bad shit you did because it just didn't make no sense in the first place.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Man.
So
Agreed.
you got fired for being bad at your job. What you want me to defend you for being bad at your job, and I see you being continuously bad? That doesn't make no sense. Like, I gotta be an idiot to do that. And we got clowns in our franchise and our organization. That's why I got this picture up.
I agree, man.
It's a clown show. This guy got Bozo the Clown up here. I love it.
Hey, can I just add something real quick? Reason just to
yeah,
pick
just
it back
real
a little
quick
bit.
because I want to get to the other guys. But go ahead.
And also, man, how you treated Tua, which is another minority quarterback. Don't forget that's very significant. That's just. I'm just sorry, man. I can't let that go, man, because that's another minority person who's. Let's be real here. This whole league has been dominated by white quarterbacks. I'm not trying to be racist or anything, but that's just how it is.
That's not
for
racist.
You to,
You're telling the truth.
I'm just telling the truth, but I don't want people to take it the wrong way. But it's just like for you to treat Tua that way, which is another minority player at a very important position. Come on, bro. Come on.
Like, I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. The sad thing, like I said earlier, the sad thing about this is even if he's telling 100% facts, they're gonna blackball him anyways. Just like if he was lying about 100% of it, they'll blackball him. Like, that's the thing. Like, I get it. Maybe because guys, I've heard Houston, Josh McDaniel. Like, I heard they wanted to hire him last year, but they didn't because he was too raw of a coach and they were afraid of the backlash after all the Watson stuff. So he probably knows McDaniel is there and he probably knows he's not getting the Saints job. So he just, fuck it, throw my nuts on the table. You know what I mean?
It doesn't make no sense, man. You putting your whole coaching career on something, on basically a whim. You better off.
Well, the problem is,
do whatever.
The problem is
some of his most build yourself back up.
Some of his most damning points are hearsay. That's what his problem is.
Well, there's a reason for that reason, and I don't want to interrupt anybody.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, hold on a sec. Hold on. I blame myself for that, but I want to get through these guys. King Truth, go ahead. Then Powerhouse. Then Dylan. Then Todd.
All right, a couple quick things. My feelings on it. First of all, I don't like that it was cloaked in a racism argument because, to me, you can't make that argument when actually none of the things that he even accuses is really racist systematically anyways. His argument was all these collusion type things. He got the interview that was pushed by the Rooney Rule, which was created to help black people, not hurt them. And if you really want to look at the numbers of it, and I'll take the establishment view of this, but everyone who talks about racism, it's like, well, you have 60% of the athletes are black. So you might be a minority, like the gentleman said about Tua playing quarterback, but black people make up most of the NFL. Now, most football players are white over the course of the whole country. And so the coaching is a good old boy network, whether you're white or black. It's hard for me to get in. I moved to a new area in South Georgia. It's hard for me to get in there because the good old boy network is real, but it's not a race thing. It's a how long you've been there thing. So that's the thing on the race. The other thing is about him being blackballed. If this is true, Flores should never coach again because he knew all these things happened leading up to this stuff, and he was okay with it as long as he didn't get fired. Now that he got fired,
or the Giants job, or the Giants job, or the Giants job, right?
Right. If he would have gotten that Giants job, he would have been quiet as cat. So I have a huge problem with his turncoat, and then all of a sudden he's the victim. And then look at all these things that were done wrong. You had no problem. If you find out that Brian Flores got money for making a team lose, he should probably go to jail for that. And so should Ross, but so should he. So I don't care if he's blackballed because he didn't do it with integrity. If he did it with integrity, I'd have felt different. And last thing I'm gonna say is I hope it's Harbaugh, but I'm with you 100% with McDaniels too. They've been my guys since day one. So I roll with you on that.
Attaboy.
Hey, Reason, you don't think anything changes because of this?
Oh, there's going to be change coming.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. Let me get through these guys, and then I'll open it up to all of you guys, and you guys can have a free-for-all. Powerhouse, Dylan,
Don't
Todd.
do that.
Before my statement, Broncos just released a statement on Brian Flores, by the way, just so you know.
Okay.
I was going to bring up the point. It's very odd that all of this is coming out because if he would have got a job, none of this would have been exposed. So it's just crazy that he's playing a race card because he hasn't found a job.
And Go to Valoa is right. McDaniel is mixed too. His father's black.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. Go ahead. Make all the points about.
Yeah, I did not know
that.
Okay.
Ahead.
Yeah. So there's so much to unpack here.
And before you go, this is right too.
Okay.
I mean, you're not wrong, Jorge.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way, okay? But the problem is
right.
Asian and Hispanics don't make up 60 to 70% of the player base. That's where their argument is coming from. Anyways, go ahead. You're not wrong. I'm just telling you where their argument is coming from, Jorge. Go ahead, Dylan.
Absolutely. So I agree on Flores. I don't think Flores has a lot to stand on here. He was just the head coach for 3 years. He was in a number of jobs as a potential candidate, one of the finalists for the Texans, whatever, right?
A bad team,
so it seems to me like it's a little bit more of a whiny outcry, especially when you add in the things like the Kenny Stills and the previously mentioned stuff. So there's that. Also, when it comes to like the potential of $100,000, I wouldn't be surprised if Ross did that because he obviously wanted to tank the 2019 season. Whether or not it's true, I don't know, but I don't necessarily think the fact that the team won 5 games is even disproof of that. If there were transactions, it could have been on a game-by-game basis, and for every game we lost. Now, a way you could prove that, if that is true, is by showing bank records that correlate to the approximate time, right? So if after each loss, all of a sudden Brian Flores gets $100,000 into his account, that could be a way to prove that if true. When it comes to the tampering thing, again, I mean, if true, that would just be yet another disaster because, well, there we go. More chaos. I don't know, bro. It's just, what really do you say about this? I mean, it's just the biggest shit show, but this is what we have to deal with, man. And I get that there's no real good way to resolve the owner thing. Like, I don't think Flores is going to win it. I think the good old boys club is going to prevail as usual. But like when it comes to the Dolphins in particular, I get there's no real like good succession plan or anything, but unfortunately, man, you know what I've been saying for 3 years, bro. This dude, it's just constant with him, and I agree. Like Harbaugh's my dream. If we could get him in here, in large part because I think he's the only coach, the only candidate that Stephen Ross actually would take a hands-off approach with and just let him completely run the show. But Mike McDaniel is my second, you know, and my top choice for, you know, a first timer. But even with those guys, do I trust that this organization or that those guys are going to be able to overcome the dysfunction, the drama, the toxicity that permeates through this organization? Not really. You know, it's worrisome. So here we are, bro. Here we are.
Yeah,
Todd, hold on. Todd, I'm gonna go Todd and then Crypto. You can start off. Todd, you wanted to make a point?
Yeah,
earlier?
just reason. This is one of the things that I continue to pound when we talk is that this is another example of the Dolphins having no media presence whatsoever. And you know they don't because our beat writers can't even find out when our interviews are, which is a joke. But we have no media presence at all. And that's why we continue to get dragged through the mud all the time because we could never stop it. I mean, the bottom line is this story is about Bill Belichick knowing who the Giants hired before their interview process was done, the Giants circumventing the Rooney Rule or abusing it with Flo, and the Broncos being a complete disaster. And the Dolphins are somehow dragged into this when they have nothing to do with it, just because we can't. That's why Bullygate grew legs, because again, that was a national story. Jonathan Martin's two parents are the premier labor lawyers in the country that both graduated from Harvard. They knew exactly how to attack the team. And meanwhile, the Patriots have a guy on their team. Yeah, the Patriots have a guy on the team that's capping people every offseason. And it doesn't reflect poorly on them. But we have a guy who couldn't get along with his teammate, and it was a national story. So again, it's the Dolphins they have no media presence to stop this. But the other thing too is what this is to me is Brian Flores turned around and he has one character reference in the entire NFL to whether or not he's a good head coach or one guy that can talk about why he got fired. And the idea that he brought up this Dolphin stuff in the context of what happened, because like I said, Miami's in his rearview mirror. He's talking about the job he didn't get and the mistreatment that he endured not getting that job. But this was a shot across the bow to the Dolphins like, hey, guess what, guys? You're my character reference, and if you want to continue to drag me through the mud, I got some stuff to say too. So just shut up and let me move on with my life. Because that's all that was. That's a shot across the bow. These are stupid allegations to Miami. We hear it and we get all nervous because we're so used to bad stuff. But there's nothing here. Nothing. The Dolphins are an afterthought in this story. The reality is this is a point that the Rooney Rule's not working. But here's the thing. I have a friend that's been trying to be a head coach in the NFL for 25 years. He just took a team to the playoffs and can't get a job. So I know how difficult it is to get a job in the NFL as a head coach. It's more who you know and those relationships. And unfortunately, the jobs get filled. The jobs that get filled are bad teams. Good teams have the same structure in place for a long time. Bad teams hire new coaches. Usually they're rookie coaches. They fail in their first attempt because they're rookie coaches taking over bad teams. And they end up fired. So what happens is it looks like the African-American coaches are getting fired at a quicker, higher rate, but it's because they're forced to take these lousy positions. Brian Flores took over what was the worst team in the NFL after we stripped it down and wasn't able to turn it around fast enough to keep his job along with the other issues. But that's why they get fired quickly. Steve Wilkes in Arizona, Culley in Houston. They're taking over horrible situations, and there's not enough patience to let them grow it. And that's one of the things. Like Mike Tomlin's not going to get fired because he's phenomenal, you know, and stuff like that. But I just think that this was a shot across the bow to the Dolphins. Like, I'm going to fight this out, and you guys are the only ones that could drag my name through the mud, but you better shut up.
Yeah. Can I add just one quick thing that I forgot
Hold
about?
on, hold on. Crypto wanted to say something, then you can make a point. Go ahead, Crypto.
Yeah, that's. Can you hear me? That's fine. I was gonna I was gonna say I kind of disagree with about 87% of what Todd just said, but I was gonna add to what Dylan said.
87, like that's pretty precise, bro.
87.33 repeating.
Jesus.
Yeah,
I got everybody's
Yeah.
name right at least. That's what he agreed with.
Now Dylan made a good point about he wouldn't be surprised about the $100,000 thing. I wouldn't either, because Stephen Ross has a track record of that, because he's once appointed a man, and contributed millions of dollars to the campaign of a man who paid porn stars $70,000 to cover up infidelity, because that's right up his alley for paying people to do shady things. So I wouldn't be surprised about the $100,000, where you find out that his signature is on his infamous signature on there, just like the one he supported, or about the porn stars that he paid to cover up infidelity. So that's right up Stephen Ross's alley there. I wouldn't be surprised.
Here's what the Broncos had to say. The Broncos said the allegation of Brian Flores directed towards the Denver Broncos in today's court filing are blatantly false. Our interview with Mr. Flores regarding a head coaching position began promptly at the scheduled time of 7:30 a.m. on January 5th, 2019 in a Providence, Rhode Island hotel. There were 5 Bronco executive presents for the interview, which lasted approximately 3.5 hours. The fully allotted time and concluded shortly before 11 a.m. Pages of detailed notes, analysis, and evaluations from our interview demonstrate the depth of our conversation and sincere interest in Mr. Flores as a head coaching candidate. Our process was thorough and fair to determine the most qualified candidate for a head coaching position. The Broncos will vigorously defend the integrity and values of our organization and its employees from such baseless and disparaging claims.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
I'd like to say something.
They got a book of notes. So I think Dylan wants to make a point.
Just
and then go
one
ahead,
quick
Logan.
thing, yeah, because Kenny Stills did tweet out the answer is diversity and ownership, which you've talked about. We mentioned up here, right? The one thing, because I looked it up, it takes a billionaire to purchase an NFL franchise, right? So out of 724 billionaires in America, there are only 7 black billionaires. So it's kind of hard for a black person to purchase an NFL franchise if you don't have the means to do it, right? So that is part of it, but that obviously lends to a much larger.
You just have to get involved in a group and be the majority investor
Right.
in the group.
Kind of like
right?
they do with the NBA.
That would be like the way that it could happen, unless one of those 7.
That's how like Jordan got
billionaires-
involved, right? Like Jordan got involved
Yeah.
as being
Sure.
part of a group.
Part
right?
of group,
Well,
yeah,
go
group
ahead,
ownership.
Sorry, Logan, then King Truth. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's about the Rooney Rule, like just my personal feelings on it. I mean, I know I'm not African American, but like
It's too easy to circumvent, bro. Like
Yeah,
it is.
But
Yeah, it is.
this is where it could be pretty dicey and a negative thing towards the African American community. Like every team has to interview a black coach just because they're black. Like that could, like they could sit there and interview someone who's not even qualified because they know they don't even want to give them a job. And like, is that really a good thing? So like, I do agree with like Brian Flores' lawsuit on trying to, implement a change on that, and good for him. I think he has some basis there because, if that Giants thing is true, if they knew they were going to hire Dable, of course, he could have went in that interview and changed their mind. Everybody changes their mind, right? But if there was like a contract already signed and that happened, like that's where the Rooney Rule gets pretty dangerous for.
It's important. It's important yet demeaning. It's very important yet it's demeaning.
Exactly.
They shouldn't be asked to report to interviews that they have no chance of getting the job.
Exactly.
Although there is some value in taking that interview and going through that process and learning and getting your name out there and maybe wowing the room. But it's also demeaning for someone like Brian Flores, who has a cachet, who has been an NFL head coach, to go to a meeting that he knows that he's a foregone conclusion and they're using him. That's inappropriate on every level.
But and then and like I texted Reason like that 58 page, I was like, dude, this guy's gonna get some blackball because how is this man supposed to fight against all those billionaires, all the NFL, the owners? Like they will never admit that the Rooney Rule or any of the stuff is a negative thing. And here we're seeing it as it could be negative. Like
I hate to make light of the situation, but maybe he just didn't want to go back to New England that badly.
Yeah.
And he's
I
like,
mean,
throw it at the wall. Let's see
Yeah.
if
but
it sticks, bro.
does he want to return to the NFL? Because
I know. I'm just joking.
Right.
bro.
like
Especially after
that's not
involving
doing
Bill.
yourself any favors.
Uh,
If Josh
I
McDaniels
think the
allowed.
I think the Broncos kind of really put a damning.
Yeah, they
thing
say
for it.
they
Like,
got
that's-
notes. You
They
got to be
got
worried.
timestamps. They got
Yeah,
notes.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
As an NFL
so now,
fan,
Hold on.
now where
Before
are
we
we
get
at? You know.
before we get off the rails here, King Truth, then Todd.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out, because I think this keeps getting missed. Everybody talks about the race in the NFL as if players and coaches are the same thing. I would bet you Mike McDaniel can't play football. I'm just going to bet that. Okay. I've actually followed him from QB Collective. He's very smart, but he's not a thrower of the football. He's not like this high-end athlete. So the idea that just because the best athletes are African-American means the best coaches are African-American is ridiculous. You got to look at the percentage of population, because the people, it is a total random selection who actually plays football. And so I've coached football for over 12 years, and you get all kinds of different people. It depends if I live in an predominantly black neighborhood or predominantly white neighborhood, where most of my players come from. But at the end of the day, football coaches aren't just players who have played in the league before. So the idea that it's going to be 50% black ownership and 50% black coaches, those two things have nothing to do with actually playing the game of football. Owners, like the gentleman brought up, dead on, 7 billionaires. So the Dolphins actually had a minority ownership group of actual minorities before. There was people that owned them. The Williams sisters owned a portion of it. So the league's not pushing out black owners like, hey, don't come and be a part of our league. So it just is such a moot point, but it keeps getting brought up like it holds any weight, and it really doesn't. Coaches, Denver Broncos had black coaches on their staff. The Dolphins had black coaches. They're racist because they hired one and then they fired one and then they didn't hold them long enough. Maybe that's an argument to be had, whether they hold them as long as white coaches, but everything else, it just kind of falls flat, and people just keep repeating it, so it becomes something that we actually believe in. But if you look across all people playing football, it is way, way, way more white people. So yes, the elite players are black. They tend to be better athletes. That's a fact. I know that might bother some people, but it's true. The best athletes don't tend to be white. Go watch the 100-meter dash. I mean, it just doesn't happen like that. And so, but to compare that with coaching, it's just different. Coaching, I don't think it matters what color. It just depends on how much you've studied on it, how good you are. And we just keep going back to the percentage of people in the NFL. And I think that just gives people an unrealistic expectation. And then they feel like the Rooney Rule is going to help, when really I would bet we're going to have 3 to 4 black coaches before the season starts. I keep hearing we have one, but we're not in the season yet. So we're going to have 3 or 4. They're going to be represented, maybe not as much as they should be. There's lots of great black coaches. Some of them stayed in college for a long, long time because they didn't get the chance. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying we're beating a drum that there's not a lot of evidence that there's a systematic way of fixing it. And him coming out, I just think is so disingenuous, because he just had got hired by us. And those other teams, they take interviews with white people that they're not going to hire. They do. They generally know who they want at the end of the season. And they do a couple people out of respect. They do a couple out of people because they promised somebody they would. We all know that stuff happens regardless of race. But during the Rooney Rule, then there's a big problem with it. But we know that occurs. And so I just wish we were a little bit more honest with ourselves about how that whole system works.
I believe, was it Todd next?
Todd,
Yes.
yeah.
The well, like he was just saying, the thing is, unfortunately, the people who have the discussion about percentages of black players, well, and then if you were asked somebody, would you like the percentage to reflect the percentage of African Americans in society? Well, that's 13%. Prior to firings, that's the exact percentage of African American coaches going into this season. If it's going to reflect the amount of African Americans in the league, you'd need 16 or 17 African American coaches to reflect the number. So I think it's very difficult to look at it like that, especially because it is a merit-based business. And unfortunately, I think where the real problem lies is the fact that, like everything else, when we have such a tragic history of race in the United States, in in every facet of life, African Americans are 200-year white people had a 200-year head start in almost every area in the United States. So the problem is, football coaching is there's a lot of nepotism involved, but there's a lot of relationships involved. And the bottom line is a lot of these relationships were forged when racism was completely prevalent. Now you're hoping that we're going in the right direction and these relationships are being built. But even as fans, even the fans that think that hiring African-American coaches has to be a priority, until it affects their team's hiring process, because, we're over here arguing about, we weren't excited about Vance Joseph and nobody wants Leslie Frazier. And if you can't hire a staff, I don't want you. And all of those things that sometimes will affect who a team hires because they don't have the relationship to fill a staff out because they're young and upcoming. So everybody wants change until it affects their team hiring, and they don't have the patience. But the other downside is a team like the Dolphins, who did hire an African-American general manager and an African-American coach. The problem with that is if outsiders, people who are disingenuous about their complaints, are then going to complain that the Dolphins came off their coach too fast. If there really is racial discrimination in the hiring practices, owners are going to step back and say, listen, if firing a black coach is going to get me accused of racism, even though I was a pioneer in my hiring practices, maybe I just stay away from it all the way so I don't have to worry about firing an African-American coach and being called a racist or be involved. I don't know what the answer is, and no one does, because there isn't. We all realize that the opportunities haven't been there, and we all realize that there has to be a program that streamline some of these qualified candidates. But that being said, like I said, the Rooney Rule to me isn't it, because again, like the Raiders when they hired John Gruden, that was always going to be their hire. They gave him a 10-year, $100 million contract, and you're forcing them to find an African-American candidate who's willing to sit in on an interview knowing he can't get the job.
Did you see the report today that Harbaugh talked to the Bears and they weren't interested in the 10-year, $100 million contract he was asking for?
Yes, I heard something interesting about Harbaugh about 20 minutes ago.
We'll talk after.
Yes.
Hold on a sec. I got to address a comment here. Someone said, why nobody in soccer talks about racism? Bro, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Did you not just see when England lost in the World Cup, bro, and the racism on Twitter and they were attacking the black players? Bro, you want to talk about Europe too? All you got to do is Google Mario Balotelli, Italy racism, okay? He was he was a black striker for the Italian team, and the racism he had to consistently put up with, whether he played for a club in England or whether he played nationally for Italy, was absolutely ridiculous. So racism is definitely prevalent in soccer, bro. Like,
they literally spit on these players. They literally spit on them from the crowd. I've never seen anything like it,
dude. After England lost in the World Cup, remember the shootout, right? They were waiting for the African-American players that missed. White English fans were waiting outside the building for them to come out the back, bro.
Mm-hmm.
They were waiting for them, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To jump them, and then they started surrounding them and shit. Like, bro, it's real.
They had a chance.
I mean, bro.
This shit has not gone away by any stretch of the imagination.
Buddy, soccer fans have literal gangs, okay? Like, trust me, it's real.
I want to say
they'll kill their goalies if they screw up a block, you know?
The big issue, I think, and I mean we've talked about is the power structure is where the diversity lacks, right? Because the players and even the coaches to a large degree are the workers, right? Now, obviously the coaches, especially the head coach, has a lot more power than the assistant coaches, but it's when you talk about the power structure that runs the whole thing. That's why I agree with the Rooney Rule. I get it in philosophy, but it doesn't really meet the goal. It's very superficial and it's way too easy to circumvent. So
yeah. Guys, we're about to hit an hour and a half right here. I'm supposed to be putting my kids down. I mean, I'm going to go through some final thoughts here because I do got to get out of here. And then, I'm not going to be back later tonight. This is the show for today. I might be back tomorrow now, obviously. But I have to go put my kids to sleep and stuff. Todd, we'll start with you. Let's get your final thoughts here, bro.
I'm hoping that Brian Flores gets whatever resolution he needs as long as it doesn't cripple the Dolphins. I really think that I'm looking forward to the day that Brian Flores and the Dolphins are no longer in the same sentence. I wish him the best, and I hope he either gets a job or gets a settlement that he's comfortable with. But I want no punishment for Brian Flores. I just want to move on. And that's it.
Gotcha.
Dude, this will just not go away. Like, this is like the messiest this is messier than Ross's real life divorce. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, it's unreal right now. Logan, your final thoughts, bro.
Yeah, unfortunately, the social culture in America, it's leaking into our sports, it's leaking into our franchise. Like, we're all like, I'm sure all of us agree, like, we want a day where it doesn't have to be about white and black, and unfortunately, it will probably always be this way because there just seems to be like certain rules put into place that may or may not be justified, or I don't know. But hopefully, yeah, exactly what Todd said. Like, I don't need to repeat it. So hopefully we can just move forward and it doesn't damage us. But fins up. Man,
I'm gonna say it once. I said it before. We need more black owners. However that happens, it needs to happen because a lot of this stuff, if you see more black owners, you will see a bigger influx in black head coaches and black coordinators. And I'm just going to say it. Todd, you mentioned them. Those guys who have the ties to the NFL when racism still existed, the old decrepit white guys that I called them earlier, they need to be wiped out, man, and they need to be replaced. They need to be replaced, and whether an influx of young, new owners, and let's get some diversity in there. Like, that's where, if it starts out at the top like that, you will see a trickle down effect that that a lot of people of every color will feel a lot more comfortable with the NFL. You know what I mean? So that's just where I'm at. And also I've been a proponent of this. Not only do we need more African American owners, we need more well-off African Americans donating to HBCUs. All right, because that's another thing that's slowly starting to die is historical black colleges, and that's an issue that I have with
recruitment from there.
The Beyoncés and the issues I have with the Jay-Z's. You guys are worth over $1 billion collectively. Yeah. Y'all can write it off as a donation at the end of the year. Yeah, donate it. Like, I will never bash LeBron James because that man is opening schools. That man is giving back to his community. That man is putting his money where his mouth is.
It's crazy, crazy, crazy. What a mess. MO for the Dolphins, right? Here we are yet again with another saga. Yeah, bro, it starts at the top, man. It's the same thing with anything in life. And it's like Reason said, trickle down. It all starts from the top, either, whatever. That's it, bro. It's a mess. Fins up.
Powerhouse, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable of the news that we've gotten today. But I'm just looking forward to our next head coach and just waiting to see if Ross sells the team or not. If not, then let's move forward. Fins up.
Next up is RJ. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, great discussion, guys. A lot of passion coming from you guys. I love it. I think just to add a little levity, I think the part that I kind of find funny is the fact that Boomer Bill accidentally texted the wrong Brian. And it wasn't until 2 hours later that he's like, whoops, my bad. So
what an old-timer thing to do.
I know, right? But anyway, great point by you guys. I mean, just as far as the Dolphins, I mean, I don't know. I think maybe we could have an ownership and leadership that shows a little bit more class, especially when you let someone out the door. Maybe we don't have to bash them so much on their way out sometimes. I know sometimes we feel like we need the vanity to defend our positions and defend our actions, but truthfully, like, they didn't have to justify that to anybody. He's an owner. He doesn't have to justify his decisions to anybody, and true leadership doesn't do that. So, maybe not bash people out the door also.
Pyro, your final thoughts, dude.
I'm gonna be honest with you, reason I am completely thrown off. That guy just kind of killed the mood, bro. Fins up. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, good luck on racist white people not being racist anymore. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Z-Man, your final thoughts.
Well, man, this clown show is something else. These Dolphins, man, they put you through hell every single time. But, let's see if Ross sells the team. Dylan, your wish might be coming true. Who knew it would end like this? But hopefully he sell the team. Hopefully we can get a coach, because I still don't want Vance Joseph, my coach, to be honest.
Dude, this guy, Brian Flores, is going on like CBS morning shows and stuff tomorrow.
Wow. Oh, he's going to do a media tour, bro.
Shit. So the Leslie Stahl interviews is on the way then.
Wow. The media tour it begins tomorrow, so there you go. I'm sure we'll hear some other stuff, man. Someone said they read that McDaniel withdrew his name, but I can't see that anywhere.
That's gotta be a troll.
Yeah, I don't think that's. He's a troll. I don't think that's true at all.
Yeah,
but anyways, guys,
if
if anything breaks out tomorrow, I'll be back. If anything I'll be back on Thursday and Friday, anyways. But if anything comes tomorrow, I will be back. And guys, bro, either way, whether Flores is lying, whether he's telling the truth, we've all already had this discussion many a times, I'm sure. Change is needed, and it doesn't matter whether Flores is telling the truth or not. There needs to be change. The old boys club, the decrepit old owners, they need to get out, and we do need a new generation. I mean, but it's a matter of if that can happen, because the fact of the matter is, for the new generation to get in there, you're just going to get a whole bunch of groups. Like, it's going to be majority groups and ownership groups. It's not going to be one guy walking in and putting like a couple billion down on the table anymore. So,
or nepotism.
Yeah,
structured like the Green Bay Packers, basically. It'd be structured like that.
Owned by
It'd be
fans.
structured like the
fans.
Green Bay Packers. Yeah.
Owned by the
It'd be
fans,
like the Packers. How they doing?
That would be cool.
Dude, I'm fine. Cool. Like, I've suggested this. LBJ, I guarantee when he retires, he's going to get a group together. He's going to be the majority. He's going to be the majority owner in the group, and he's probably going to get together a group. Dude, I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to buy a football team.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if they already have.
Yeah, hopefully.
It's going to be their
right?
Bro, at this point, I'm ready to sell the Dolphins to J-Lo and the Williams sisters, bro.
And the Williams sisters.
Let's go. I'll take that.
Sell it to Cristobal cousin.
Yeah.
We got to sell it to Cristobal
cousin. There you go. Guys, it was an absolutely crazy day. I will be back, like I said, on Thursday. If anything breaks tomorrow, I'll be back. Until then, everyone, even if it needs Viagra, fins up all day, every day, baby. Smash that like button. There's still 558 of you in the room.